Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. Let me get into this topic here. Today we're going to be discussing a little bit more about this Josh Giddey situation in the NBA investigation. Before I get into these, get into actually what I really want to say, I want to quickly say this because I saw what Stephen A. Smith had to say yesterday with his response show. I want to say this. By talking about this particular topic, we're not accusing anyone. I'm not saying he did this. I'm not saying that person said that. I'm not saying this fact occurred, that fact occurred. All I'm doing is covering the information as the stories come out. That is all. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm not saying this person did this or that person did that. I'm just going through some of the articles that is being published by some of these news publications. That is all. We're covering the story. I am not saying anything about Josh Giddey's character and all of these things. I think is important to make that distinction, to say this, that you can talk about this story, right? So what happened? This morning I was doing some research and I came across a litany of articles. Two of them is from fadeawayworld.net, and another one is from the Daily Mail. Now I want to read from the Daily Mail. I want to read from fadeawayworld.net one article, and it says Josh Giddey could lose $40 million in sponsorships, lose $40 million sponsorship deal amid allegations of relationship with underage girl. The article then continues on. The NBA is currently investigating allegations of inappropriate conduct involving Oklahoma City Thunder guard Josh Giddey and a minor, and the repercussions are extending beyond the basketball court. Giddey, a rising star in the league, is reportedly at risk of losing his $40 million sponsorship deal with Wheat Bix, an Australian cereal brand owned by the Centurium Health Food Company. According to reports, Giddey, who is 21 years old, has been removed from the company's social media accounts amid the ongoing investigation. The situation is evolving, and the Wix-Bix has not officially terminated its ties with Giddey. A spokesperson from the Centurium Health Food Company stated, "We are obviously aware of the news surrounding Josh Giddey and are waiting for facts to be confirmed. We are in contact with Josh's management team and waiting on further detail at this point." Giddey, a former 6th overall pick, had been featured on Wheat Bix cereal boxes and promotional materials, symbolizing a lucrative sponsorship deal that is now in jeopardy. Other athlete ambassadors for Wheat Bix include Alex de Minaur and some other people there. The article then concludes by saying the NBA investigation into the allegation adds a layer of complexity to Giddey's professional career. The young guard, who has been a key contributor to the Thunder's young core, now faces uncertainty off the court. Giddey played in Saturday's game against the Sixers, contributing 10 points, 8 assists, and 7 rebounds, while his availability for future game remains unaffected from a basketball standpoint. So you heard what that article said. Now I want to get into another article. From fadeawayworld.net, and this is from Andrew Bogut. It says, Andrew Bogut claims girl lied about her age to Josh Giddey. The Thunder knew about their relationship but didn't have any concerns. It continues on. Former NBA player Andrew Bogut claims Josh Giddey's alleged girlfriend lied about her age and the Thunder had no issue with the relationship. It continues on. Josh Giddey has made headlines for all the wrong reasons recently after it was alleged that he got into a relationship with an underage girl. Fellow Australian and former NBA player Andrew Bogut has now shared some details on the situation on his Rogue Bogus podcast. If Josh was 19, 20, 21 and knowingly seeking out a 15-year-old girl, absolutely despicable behavior. I'm strongly against it, Bogus said. I don't think this is that from what I understand. If I am wrong, I'll come back and apologize. I don't think it is that. I think the girl was younger. From what I understand is the girl in question has lied about her age and said she was of age at the time. Bogut also shared that This happened over a year ago, but admits it is hard to give a proper commentary on the matter until the whole situation is played out. The 39-year-old did reveal, though, that the Oklahoma City Thunder have known about this relationship for quite some time. OKC have been aware of this from what I'm told for the last year, and they've known about it. Bogut continued. They've deemed Josh free to play. They didn't see any concerns. The NBA have allowed that, which is kind of telling, because when these kind of things happen, the NBA kind of tries, hey, take a couple of games off to figure this thing out. And then Bogut also says, Bogut wonders, though, whether the NBA can take any action considering no charge has been filed against Giddey. And then, the article goes on to say a few other things. And of course, public figure, DJ Academics, also, he chimed in from the Daily Mail, where he basically, said that he basically said that he looks a little bit creepy for doing this, for being a part of this situation there. You guys can go hunt that down. So what are my thoughts on this story here? First of all, I believe that there's more to it. Hence the reason there is an investigation. Now, there's something I want to get to, however, which is this. Some people are saying that, oh, this is a legal matter. We have to be careful about how we talk about it. And I say bollocks. Bollocks. BS. As long as you're not accusing anyone, media outlets should have the right to weigh in on this story and talk about reports as they come out. As long as you're not accusing anyone if you don't have the facts. We've not been doing that. We've just been talking about it. I'm reading reports online from various news outlets. That's what we're doing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything sinister with that. That's number one. Number two, I'm not buying into this whole thing of, oh, this is a sensitive situation and all of that. Listen, there were more cameras on Kyrie Irving than there were flies on a pile of dung during that post that he made. People were talking about that. The Ja Morant situation, we were talking about that. So it's not like as if this is the first time a controversial story has come out surrounding an NBA player and people are not talking, and people, never spoke about it. This is commonplace. In this particular case, as long as you're not accusing him of anything when you don't have the information, I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about it, if I'm being quite honest with you. And it seems like, based on some of the things that Andrew Bogut is saying, that it seems like the team may have been privy to this, or maybe this person is lying and all of that. Well, this means that we have to continue to talk about it as more information comes out. Because if we're going to hold our tongues on it, then one will have to ask the question, well, wait a minute. We didn't do that in all the other scenarios when NFL players were, accused of assaults, and some of them it was true. I don't know whatever the case was. We spoke about it. We speculated on it, as long as you don't say this person. And as a matter of fact, I've heard Stephen A. Smith said, this is despicable if this is true. If this story is true, so-and-so, so-and-so person is so-and-so. As long as you're not accusing anyone. To me, this thing of, oh, let's hush, 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 don't say anything about it, I think it's total nonsense. It's your job as the media to inform the public. As long as you're not slandering people, which I don't think the majority of people are doing. As a matter of fact, the public outcry over Malika Andrews was a lot of people waiting to hear her voice. No one was saying Malika Andrews should come out there and accuse anyone of anything. They were like, where's your voice on this matter when you've been so vocal on so many other issues? We were one of the first outlets, I'm not saying we're the first, we're one of the first outlets to demand that we hear from Malika Andrews over this Josh Giddey situation. As you guys know, the NBA is currently investigating or conducting an investigation about Oklahoma City player Josh Giddey alleged relationship with an underage girl, right? So they're trying to figure out, if that was true or not, and the investigation is still ongoing. So there's that. Now, over the weekend, we produced a show, and I asked the audience, and I asked to hear from Malika Andrews. Why was I asking to hear from Malika Andrews? Because whenever it comes to some drama pertaining to black men, Malika Andrews is the first one jumping up, hollering and screaming. The very first one. She gets so passionate about it. And in this particular instance, we could not find her anywhere. Then what happened? all hell broke loose all over the internet. People on Twitter or YouTube all over the place were saying, Malika Andrews or Malika Andrews or Malika Andrews, we need to hear your voice on this subject matter. So what happened? Finally, Malika Andrews goes on ESPN where she works, and she basically was forced to give a response because what she said, she read off of a teleprompter. So what we want to do is, I'm going to play exactly what she had to say. It's only about a 30-second, 40-second clip of what she had to say about the Josh Giddey situation, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what Malika Andrews had to say here.
The league is looking into allegations that Thunder guard Josh Giddey had an improper relationship with an underage girl. In a since-deleted post, an anonymous social media user claimed a girl who was seen with Giddey in videos and images, some of which include explicit captions, was a junior in high school at the time. Giddey, who is 21, he declined to comment on Friday, and despite the serious allegations, Giddey is yet to miss a game this season. Under coach Mark Daigneault, he said he will continue to be in the lineup, saying, quote, just with the information we have at this point, that is the decision we've made. It's obviously a league matter at this point, and the ball is in their court on that. Now, a league spokesperson told me this morning that the NBA is still in the process of gathering information, and we will continue to update this story as the news develops. NBA Today will be back.
So you heard what Malika Andrews had to say. Now, here's the issue I'm having with Malika Andrews and the issue some people are having with her. In this particular soundbite, Malika Andrews sounds so solemn. She sounds so sad. She almost sounded like as if she didn't want to do it. Now, some people were saying, well, no, this is a sensitive situation. We don't yet have all the facts, and therefore that's the reason she's going to take the approach. Here's why I'm going to call baloney on it and why I think she's still not keeping the same energy. What we want to do is we want to quickly play a soundbite of this same Malika Andrews, that did not have all the information about the Ime Udoka scandal with the Boston Celtics. And I want to play for you guys how Malika Andrews was behaving and how she was talking when she went on the Stephen A. Smith show on ESPN First Take to basically shut down Stephen A. Smith on his own show, and how this same Malika Andrews that sounded so docile in this audio want to play exactly how she was acting when it came to the Ime Udoka matter. Take a listen to Malika Andrews here.
Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop. What became apparent to me in this press conference is that we do not have all of the information here. And it was frustrating to me that the Celtics declined to elaborate or to give more specifics about what exactly the rule breaking was that led us to this point. So that I just want to get that out of the way first. But to answer your question, Molly, I think what stood out to me, I think what stood out to me is that Brad Stevens, he was upset. That's what stood out to me about what he termed rampant Twitter BS is the word that he used, that women were unfairly dragged into this within the Celtics organization. You could see that Brad Stevens was visibly upset about this. And I also found that to be gross and unnecessary, that folks were bringing in the names and the images of women that is just not a fact. That was purely speculation. And so to me, that is what stood out. But the Celtics as an organization could have done more, and short of doing more ahead of this yesterday, they could have owned that responsibility in this press conference. I understand that there were legal parameters that they had to operate within for everybody involved, and I appreciate the fact that they brought in outside counsel and did a thorough organization. And I think that that is something that was clearly necessary in this situation. But the fact that it was able to go on all day, the fact that we are sitting here debating whether somebody else should have been suspended or not, we are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
First of all, let me be very clear. I don't appreciate where you're going with that. I'm not blaming anybody but Ime Udoka. He deserves, the fact of the matter is, I've said he deserved to be fired if they were going to fire him. If you're not going to fire him, then don't fire him. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just
You
like
don't
you're
think
not
someone would
mentioning.
notice if Ime Udoka was not at...
Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I've already said he deserves to be fired, or he deserves to be there and handle it internally and privately. If you're not going to handle it privately, if you're going to publicize it in that fashion, then obviously it provokes everybody wanting to know, okay, well, who are the parties involved? When you have Amina Smith in Boston and other women pointing out the fact that there were women who were wrongly implicated in all of this, it's a disservice to them. I didn't come out with the report about a consensual relationship. I didn't come out with the report ahead of time leaking that they were going to suspend him for the year. They did that. And my point is, considering how pervasive this kind of stuff has existed in professional sports for many years, my whole point is that, excuse me, make sure that you handle it in the same fashion it has always been handled.
So you heard Malika. Does that even sound like the same person to you? Does that even sound like, now some people say, oh, well, you know, they didn't have all the facts. Did they have all the facts with the email Udoka situation? Did we even know who the person was in question? All we knew was that the Boston Celtics were electing to suspend Ime Udoka for a relationship that took place within the organization. Malika Andrews took it upon herself to then assume that, that Ime Udoka was the person that was in power, that basically took advantage of his position in terms of being the head coach of a team, and took advantage of one of his subordinates. And I was asking at the time, how could you be taking this position, Malika, when you don't know who the person in question is? So you had no issues coming to a conclusion then. None whatsoever. You already knew where you stood on this situation. When you were bringing up Joe Mazzulla's past, I didn't see you talking about it in such a calm way. But for you to be forced by your own network to go out there and say something, it lets me know that you weren't going to say anything had they not done that. You wasn't going to say nothing had they not done that. You wasn't going to say nothing. Nothing. Nada. Niente. Nothing. But you knew how egregious it would have been had you not said anything. To me, my personal views on Malika Andrews are the following. And this is just my opinion, based on how I have heard her speak to black men on television and speak about black men. I personally believe Malika Andrews doesn't have one iota of respect for black guys, period, in the story. That's just my view. That's just my view. I have yet to hear her talk about Dana White the way that she does about black men. I haven't heard it. Have you heard it? I never heard it. I've yet to hear her talk about, Brett Favre, the way she talks about these guys. I never heard it. Have you? You're talking about Brandon Miller, who was exonerated, who wasn't even charged for anything. Meanwhile, you have Brett Favre that's actually involved in a case where people are going to jail. I didn't hear nothing from you. Nothing. Who's being accused of stealing from the poor, who is refusing to release, I think, old text messages or something like, this is the Brett Favre. We never heard nothing from you. Had that been Kawhi Leonard or one of these other, you would have been all over the story. Had it been an NFL player, you would have been all over the story. So I'm not buying it. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. All of a sudden now people in the comment section talking about, oh, well, you know, it's unfair what you're doing to Malika Andrews. I had more respect for you. Now, you know what you're saying about her is wrong and all of this stuff. And I'm like, you can go ahead and kick rocks. You can go ahead and kick rocks. One person said, I don't usually leave comments, but you look silly for this Malika Andrews coverage. She's an ESPN employee. We have no idea of her production power to determine segments and topics. It's obvious ESPN called for a general blackout on this subject. But interesting, you think Malika hates black men and targets them, yet you are targeting her. I'm targeting Malika Andrews. You are targeting her when the network full of commentators have been silent on air about Giddey. What? What? Excuse me, what? You don't usually leave comments, but I look silly for this Malika. She's an employee of ESPN. We have no idea of her production power. So why wasn't her production power brought into question when she was going after Ime Udoka, when she was going after Brandon Miller, when she was going after, what's his name, Joe Mazzulla? Is she the head honcho on ESPN First Take? When you heard her talking in that soundbite, did it sound like someone that had no autonomy? No, help me figure it out. Is it her show or is it Stephen A. Smith's show? Was he not the one that invited her on her show? Was she talking like someone that had no power? If she had no power, why did Stephen A. Smith say in that soundbite, you're not going to come on my show and start dictating the terms? What are you talking about? That's number one. Number two, you then said, you said ESPN has called for a general blackout on the subject. Why would ESPN call for a general blackout on the subject? Help me figure this out, please. Why would they do that? They didn't do it with Deshaun Watson. They didn't do it with Antonio Brown. They didn't do it with all of these other people. So why would they do that now? You're exposing your idiocy for the world to see. What are you talking about? And then you had the nerve to talk about, but it's interesting you think Malika hates black men when all you do is target her. How the hell am I targeting her? What I'm asking her is for the same consistency, my boy. We talk about everybody. We talked about the Kyrie situation. We talked about John Morant. We talked about Brett Favre. We talk about everybody. I don't know what the bloody hell you're talking about. I call it exactly how I see it. And your little buzzwords about targeting, that's a joke. Again, these are the games they play, to quote the late, great Dick Gregory. These are the games they play. These are the games they play. I'm targeting her. Me standing up here defending black men, and you talking about I'm targeting. How am I targeting her? Well, I'm asking, why is she mute on this particular matter? And that's me targeting her? I hope you were under those videos when she was attacking all of those brothers. I hope you were under there saying you're targeting black men. I hope you were. And this is most likely some black dude somewhere twerking it up all over the place, trying to virtue signal, simping it up. So I'm going to ask, why didn't you speak? You acting like as if we're talking about some angel here. When Brandon Miller was in that situation when she brought it up on draft night, are you aware Brandon Miller was younger than Josh Giddey when she brought up that story on draft night? Are you freaking kidding me? So now you want to tell me that Malika Andrews is being controlled to say this and say that. So if that's your feeling, then you're saying that she's nothing but a puppet. What are you saying, really? What is this? Y'all up there just looking for every single way. Black men, take it on the chin. Why are you complaining that they talking about you? Take it on the chin. I don't usually bring up race, but at the end of the day, I'm going to defend my own race because I am who I am. If I don't defend myself, who will? Who will? Everybody else is going to defend their group. Everybody else is going to defend their group. You go out there and disrespect a particular group and they're going to stand up and say something. When it comes my turn to stand up and now I got to go sit back down, you better get the hell off this channel. You better go twerk it up somewhere else and simp it up somewhere else. I'm sorry, these are my thoughts. Excuse my passion, but I had to address this idiocy that was plastered all over the comment section of the channel. There's a lot of chat around this particular story. For those of you who may not be aware, there's a situation that's this kind of a story breaking around NBA Oklahoma City Thunder, Josh Giddey, of an alleged affair that he had with an underage girl. So we're now trying to get to the bottom of that. The NBA still has an ongoing investigation about that. Now, I was recently on break and we produced a show. And that show was simply this. I was asking for Malika Andrews to come out here and make a public statement because on so many other issues involving blacks, she's the first one to jump up there and start hollering and screaming and all of that. So I said, okay, we need to hear your voice on this. And we'll be getting to Malika Andrews a little bit later today. So that's that part. As I was going through the internet, kind of following this story, I also heard other people out there asking, hey, Stephen A. Smith, where are you? Where are you? We want to hear about you. We want to hear from you. Now, what's the reason people are saying this? Based on the information I have, based on following Stephen A. Smith and all of this, I think the reason people were asking to hear from Stephen A. Smith, is a lot of people or some people out there feel like Stephen A. Smith is hypercritical of blacks, especially when they F up. But whenever it comes to whites, he's always a little bit more pragmatic. And in this particular instance, people were like, okay, we need to hear from you now. because this is a serious story and we need to hear your voice. That's the reason people were, I believe, were calling on Stephen A. Smith to speak. I personally didn't care about, I wasn't looking at it from that angle because he wasn't even the one I was looking for to speak, to be quite honest with you. The person I was looking for was Malika Andrews. I really didn't care one way or the other. But nevertheless, I guess Stephen A. Smith heard the chatter out there and he decided to go on his own show, the Stephen A. Smith podcast, to address the public and the people who've been wondering why he refused to put out a public comment. So what we want to do is we want to play exactly what Stephen A. Smith had to say in response to his critics, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say there.
Another item I wanted to get to was something significantly more sensitive than what I just finished talking about. And that is the case involving Josh Giddey of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, let me say this to all of y'all out there who've been clamoring for me to touch on this subject. Y'all getting on my last damn nerves. Could you try to be responsible? Could you try? That's all I'm asking. What you want Stephen A. to say? Oh, man, when you ask Stephen A. if this was a brother. Wait a minute. If it was a brother, I would have treated it with the same level of sensitivity. This man, Josh Giddey, is currently being investigated by the National Basketball Association, the NBA, over allegations that he was having a relationship with a minor. We don't know who she was. We don't know how old she was. He's 21. We don't know how old she is. We don't know anything. We know there's an investigation going on. That's all we know. We don't know anything else. You know why Stephen A. hasn't said anything? Because you could get sued, idiots. You don't just go out there running your damn mouth over something this serious. A fight that took place on a basketball court, sure. Allegations where the alleged victim is identified, sure. Where the specification of the crime is illuminated, sure. But this clamoring to comment about something with no information, no definitive facts, you can't do it. You can do it on social media with your troll ass selves. You can do it then because you don't have any real accountability. But why don't you try using your social media accounts and going to Josh Giddey and flat out accusing him and stating it as a point of fact? Make sure you give him your name and address too, because he probably could sue you. You have to wait and see. We don't have all the information. We don't even have the specific allegations in terms of its depth. Again, we don't know how old she is. When you say a minor, what do you mean? Are we talking 16? Are we talking 14? Are we talking 12? What are we talking about? Is she 17, about to turn 18 in a month? But got parents that are pissed off because she was messing with an NBA player? We don't know. There are a whole bunch of things going on. I don't know. I have no clue. If I had a clue, I would have spoke on it. But I don't. And that's why I haven't said anything. And my advice to y'all is to shut the hell up and do the same. The investigation is ongoing. We're going to find out something. And when we find out more information, we'll speak on it. When Josh Giddey was asked, he said he couldn't comment on it. That's what he said. Quote, I understand the question, obviously, but there's no further comment right now. That's what he said. I get the question, guys. I completely understand you guys want to know about it, but just for right now, I don't have anything to say. It doesn't sound suspicious, no doubt about it. Fair enough. But that's not enough to engage in dialogue about it. Not over the digital airwaves, linear airwaves, anywhere else. Can't do it. And Dagenhart, the head coach, when he was asked about it, he said it was a personal matter and I have no comment on it, and that will be my answer on anything related.
What you want Stephen A. to say? What you want me to say? You want me to act like I was with him? And I saw exactly what he was doing, who he was doing it with, and what was going on?
So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say. I have a few thoughts because he makes some points. The first point he made, which was this. The reason why he wasn't commenting was because it's a story that's still being investigated. And the last thing you want to do is go out there and start accusing people. Right? So before you go down that road, it's best you remain quiet until all the information comes out. Because if you go out there and start making accusations or coming to conclusions about facts that you don't have, you may risk being sued. That is a fact. He points out a fact, and I think it's good that he said that to alert some people who may be going out there and doing that, accusing this person, accusing that person, because you could be sued for that. However, I don't believe that's what people were saying. I don't believe people wanted Stephen A. Smith to persecute Josh Giddey or say he did this or he did that. I don't think that's what people wanted. What I think people wanted was to hear his thoughts and opinions on the situation. And you cannot tell me that you have no thoughts on this particular subject matter. I will refuse to believe that. And I'll tell you why, because I'm going to speak from personal experience. I've seen Stephen A. Smith touch on many issues. And the moment the story breaks, I've heard him say this, and I'm not accusing him of anything, but I've heard him say this and I'm going to paraphrase in case he tries to sue me. I've heard him say, and I want to paraphrase, if this is true, if these reports are true, such and such and such, if this is true, and we don't know if it's true, but if it's true, he then takes a position. To me, why all of the nuance? Why all this nuance? I've heard you and other people come to conclusions quicker on other people than you did this story. To me, I don't think anyone, again, is asking Stephen A. Smith to accuse anyone. That's certainly what I'm asking for, because what can he accuse on when he doesn't have the information? All people are looking for is to hear from you. And Stephen A. Smith doesn't strike me as someone that's shy about giving his opinion. So there's no need to be coy here. I think that's at the heart of the matter, in my personal view. I could be wrong, but that's what I believe. I think people just want to hear what he thinks, and I think we need to hear from everyone. I think we need to hear from everyone because we hear from everyone for everything else. We heard from everyone about Kyrie. We heard from everyone about Deshaun Watson. We heard from everyone about John Morant. We heard from everyone about everyone. So in this particular situation, all we're saying is talk about it. Cover the story. Same situation with the Brett Favre. No one is saying accuse Brett Favre of anything. That's certainly not what I'm saying. What we're saying is talk about the story. We've discussed it. We've covered the blow-by-blow and the play-by-play of some of the things that are happening surrounding that case. We have. If you go through those shows that we produce, nowhere in that did you hear me attack the character of Brett Favre. All I did was react to the information that I got on those reports. And to me, I don't know why all of a sudden now we need to re-strategize on how we're covering the news. But I guess everyone has their own methodology. That's up to them. That's what I think. So what I want to know from you guys is, what do you think about Stephen A. Smith's response? Do you think what he said will suffice, or do you wish he went further? And ultimately, how do you see this particular thing playing out? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We catch you guys on the next show. Peace.